I'm going to talk briefly about stories and how important they are to our mental well-being and our pursuing the things that we really want to pursue and living the values that are important to us. A lot of the time, most of the time even, most of us are telling ourselves stories about what's happening to us, what could happen to us, what did happen to us. Our heads are always full of stories. They're basically storytelling machines, automatic storytelling machines. Stories are entertaining, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily helpful. The thoughts in your head are real. You are really thinking them, but that doesn't mean that they're true. And that goes doubly for any stories that you're telling about how dire the consequences of the current state of affairs could be, or how things are headed in the wrong direction, or how unfair everything is. These are all just stories, interpretive stories, overlaid onto the facts of your experience. And almost always these stories are not helpful. Our brain is wonderful at coming up with unhelpful stories to tell us. And so when you're trying to go from a bad place mentally, a bad thought pattern, to a good thought pattern, you cannot go directly from A to B. It doesn't work that way. You don't go from bad to good. That's one of the reasons why positive thinking doesn't really work, right? Because we haven't addressed the negative thought pattern habit that we may have. And so when we start to try to force ourselves to think positively, right, your brain tells you stories about how stupid it is to think positively and how it's never going to get you anywhere, these sorts of things, right? So a much better practice, instead of going from negative to positive, is to go from negative to neutral, because neutral is the place where stories don't exist. It's a place where your brain doesn't have that option to poke holes in the happy-go-lucky unicorn farts and rainbows style story that you're trying to force down your own throat. Because neutral is just, as much as possible, an objective view of reality. So don't try to correct your negative thoughts, right? Just try to return to the fact of the matter, the basics of the situation, the neutral position. Look at what is actually happening and deal with what's at hand, instead of wrestling with unhelpful stories in your head all the time. Just deal with the reality in front of you, from a neutral, no judgment, just this is the facts of the matter, and this is what I have to deal with, and that is neither good nor bad. It's up to me to make something of it. Get to neutral.